We have a pre-release pack for Lord of the Rings, so we will go ahead and take a look and see what we got. One ring to rule them all. It's a dangerous business, Frodo. Going out of your door, you step into the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be swept off to. All right, die. We've got a couple of items here. We've got a description of the ring and how the ring works in Magic. We've got a little art card extra here. We've got some promo cards, and we've got some draft boosters. All right, let's take a look at the promos to start. So there is a Magic the Gathering item here for Arena. And for the promos, we have a foil Galadriel of Lothlorien. Blue-green, looks really nice. And then we have Bilbo, Retired Burglar. Also foil, Halfling Rogue. Also a very fun card. Cool, so this will be fun in a ring tempt deck. And now let's take a look at the packs. Let's see if there's an easy way, or should I use the knife to open them? All right, so we've got our draft boosters. Oh, maybe there is an easy way there, so next time I will do that. And let's see, we've got all right, Esquire of the King, Lorien Revealed, Hobbit Sting. Now this would be really good for a halfling deck, or a hobbit deck I should say, because they're all about generating food, so that's cool. Ents Fury, Quarrel's End, Mordor Trebuchet. Whenever you attack with one or more goblins and orcs, create a 2/1 colorless construct artifact creature token with flying named Ballistic Boulder that's tapped and attacking. You sacrifice at the end, so that's fun. Fun and thematic. Glorious Gale. Counter target creature spell. If it was legendary, the ring tempts you. I really like that, so that's going to be fun. Wizard Rockets. Enters the battlefield tap. Add mana, so yeah, that's a cool one. Knights of Dol Amroth. Troll of Khazad-dûm. Can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures, so like super menace. Cool. Ranger's Firebrand. Deals 2 damage on any target and tempted by the ring. March from the Black Gate. Kind of hard to see the art, but that is kind of cool. When it enters the battlefield, an army you control attacks, amass orcs 1. So fun for those orc army decks. Here we go. Butterbur, Bree Innkeeper. At the beginning of your end step, if you don't control a food, create a food token. Really good for food decks. Sharky, Tyrant of the Shire. Let's see. Swamp Island. Activated abilities of lands your opponents control can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. Has all activated abilities of lands your opponents control except mana abilities. That is an interesting one. I wonder for like big games that might be kind of fun to try out. And then we have the forest, so one of the Hobbit lands for Buckland. That's pretty cool, the old forest here. And then an Orc Army token. All right, so first pack down. There are a couple of cards I am interested in getting, but we'll see how these go. All right, so yep, there is theoretically an easier way to open these. We will see how this works out. And we've got Pelargir Survivor. Add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast an instant or sorcery spell. That's alright. And then target player mills 3 cards. So relatively cheap to bring out, and then with some interesting abilities, so that's pretty decent. Westfold Rider. Sacrifice to destroy target artifact or enchantment. Pretty decent also. Mirror Guardian. Ring tempts you when it dies. Rally at the Hornburg. Great human soldiers, alright. Shelob's Ambush. So that's fun. You can see that spider in the background. I know some people who will have fun with that. Gives a creature Death Touch and a food token, which is great because it's basically saying we're going to make this guy into food. So awesome. Lorien Revealed. Blue mana. Draw 3 cards. Kind of expensive. Many Partings. Search the library basic land, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle, and create a food token for 1 green. That's pretty good. So that's kind of ramp and gives a food token. So really good for food decks. Inherited Envelope. When it enters, the ring tempts you, add a mana of any color. So if you had a ring deck, that would be kind of useful. Improvised Club. Sacrifice a creature, deals 4 damage to any target. So I guess lore-wise, you're going to be, hitting someone into someone else. So that's kind of neat. Quick Beam, Upstart Ent. So 6 mana, 2 green, which is expensive. When it or another tree folk enters the battlefield under control, up to 2 target creatures get +2/+2 and gain trample until end of turn. So kind of expensive, but probably okay for a tree folk deck. I haven't seen many of those yet, but might have fun making one of those sometime. Voracious Fellbeast. 6 mana also, 2 black. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifices a creature and create a food token for each creature sacrificed that way. So again, turning creatures into food. Rising of the Day. Gives everyone haste, so that's fun. Orcish Bowmasters. This has been a really interesting card. There's been a lot of decks built around it. It's got flash, which means you can cast it any time. When it enters the battlefield, whenever an opponent draws a card except the first one, it deals 1 damage to any target and amass orcs 1. So this one has been a really popular card from this set, so very cool to get one. And then we have a foil card. This is Friendly Rivalry. Target creature you control and 1 other target legendary creature you control each deal damage equal to their power to target creature you don't control. So that's fun. There you go. 42 Master Legolas Gimli. So yeah, Gimli and Legolas killing things together. So yeah, heartwarming really. And then we have a mountain. So regular mountain from the set, and of course a orc army token. So all right. Next. If I can open this. There we go. Okay. We've got Isolation at Orthanc. Put target creature from its owner library 2nd from the top. These are kind of fun. It's a little expensive, but it's fun to do that to opponents. Slip on the Ring. Exile target creature you own, then return it to the battlefield under your control. The ring tempts you. So this is for kind of those bounce back effects, but that's fun. In the art, it's neat, turning invisible. Generous Ent. So it's a tree folk with reach. When it enters the battlefield, create a food token and forest cycling. All right. Rohirrim Lancer has menace, 1 red, so you can bring this up pretty quickly. And when it dies, the ring tempts you. So that's decent. Cirith Ungol Patrol. Sacrifice another creature, draw a card, and create a food token. So yeah, there you go. You can see the art with the spider web, so making food again. Greyhaven's Navigator with got flash. When it enters the battlefield, scry 1. Battlescar Goblin deals 1 damage to each creature blocking it. Surrounded by orcs, amass orcs 3, then target player mills X card where X is the amassed army's power. This would be really fun for some of those kind of orc army decks. Mushroom Watchdogs. Sacrifice a food, put a +1/+1 counter on them. It gains vigilance until end of turn as a sorcery, so something you can only do on your turn most of the time. But yeah, it's thematic at least. Lemba Spread. When it enters the battlefield, scry 1 and draw a card. You can sacrifice it for 3 life. When it's put into the graveyard, you shuffle it back into your library. So a little life gain, little scrying. Relatively cheap. Denethor, Ruling Steward. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died under your control this turn, create 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Sacrifice another creature. Each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So it's black and white. I know this would be really fun for some people's decks that I own. so, that I know. So that'll be kind of interesting. You cannot pass. Destroy target creature that blocked or was blocked by a legendary creature this turn. Really thematic with Gandalf there, of course. And there's Gandalf telling the Balrog can't pass. A Saga. Oath of the Grey Host. Let's see, you and another person create a food token. Each opponent loses 3 life and you get a treasure token. And then create 3 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying. So there you go. It's the ghost, the scrubbing bubble ghost from the 3rd Hobbit movie. Or really, Lord of the Rings movie. Glamdring. Legendary artifact equipment. A creature has first strike and gets a +1/+0 for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. Cool. Whenever it deals damage to a player, you can cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand with mana value equal or less than the damage without paying its mana cost. That is fun. Really good for sorcery and kind of those instant sorcery magic decks. So that is a really neat card. I do like that. Then we've got a swamp. And we have a ring. So another one of these ring cards that tells you how the ring works. All right. We've got another one here. Let's see if we can manage to open this. We've got the Treason of Isengard. Put a target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on top of your library. So nice recursion there. And the Mass Orcs too. Really good for an orc army deck. So cool. Second Breakfast. Love the theme and the art. 2 creatures get +2/+1 on the turn. Create a food token. Bag and Porter. When it attacks, it gets X, which is X+X, and where it's a number of legendary creatures you control. So okay for some of the legendary decks. Kind of expensive. Erebor Flamesmith. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Sam's Desperate Rescue. 1 black mana, return target creature from your graveyard to your hand, and the ring tempts you. That's pretty good. That's a pretty decent card. Ithilien Kingfisher. Flying 2/1. When it dies, draw a card. Fancy art card. Nasty End. Sacrifice a creature when you cast it. You draw 2 cards. If the creature was legendary, you draw 3 cards instead. So, but you know, fun art. Borderless there. Woe's Pathfinder. Add a mana of any color, and another target creature gets +3/+3 against trample. That's really expensive, but it's pretty cheap to bring up and good for ramp, so it's something you might have around for a little bit. Eastmark Cavalier. Vigilance. Whenever it deals damage to a goblin or orc, destroy that creature. Really kind of niche there. Rise of the Witch King. Each player sacrifices a creature. If you sacrifice a creature this way, you can return another permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's a really good card. So Lord of the Nazgul coming in there. That's pretty decent for those colors. Grond the Gatebreaker. Legendary artifact vehicle. As long as it's your turn, you control an army. It is an artifact creature, so 5/5 for 4 mana with crew 3. Alright. Decent for the army decks. We've got, Samwise. Legendary. Samwise the Stout-Hearted. Legendary creature. Halfling peasant with flash, so you can cast it at any time. Only 2. When Samwise enters the battlefield, choose up to 1 target permanent card in your graveyard that was put in there from the battlefield this turn. Return it to your hand, and the ring tempts you. So yeah, that's a nice little cheap, getting a 2/1 creature, but more importantly, bringing in something from your graveyard that went there this turn. So that's cool. Lotho, Corrupt Sheriff. We've got, whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, you lose 1 life and create a treasure token. So good for ramp, does some damage to you. Relatively cheap, 2/1 creature. We've got a foil card, Gala Dream Guide. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2. We've got Fancy Mountain. So we've got one of the map mountains. That's cool. And a Human Soldier token. All right. Next, we're bringing in the next draft booster. Assuming I can open it. All right. We've got Gimli's Fury. +3/+2 until end of turn. If legendary, also gains trample, so good to use on Gimli. Instant red. Hobbit Sting deals X damage to target creature, where X is the number of creatures you control plus the number of foods you control. Instant spell also. Really good white card for creature removal, particularly for food token decks. Ent's Fury, which we've seen before. Quarrel's Inn, which we've seen before. Mordor Trebuchet, which we've seen before. Still fun though. Glorious Gale, saw that one. Second Breakfast. So a lot of repeats this one. Here's a different one. Lash of the Balrog. As an additional cost to play the spell, sacrifice a creature or play 4. It destroys a target creature. So yeah, you can sacrifice a creature and spend 1 mana to kill another creature. That's often a decent trade depending on your deck. Eagles of the North. Expensive. That's 6 mana with flying, 3/3. When there's the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain first strike until end of turn. It's a little expensive for what I'd want to do. They should just take the ring over and drop it in the volcano. Borderless art, Mirkwood Bat. So 4 mana flying. Whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. That is a really good effect for token decks. So yeah, that is kind of a pretty good one there. Ugluk of the White Hand, legendary orc soldier. Whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter. If a creature was a goblin orc, put 2 +1/+1 counters. So that is really good for those kind of orc goblin decks. So that's fun. Entdraft Basin, or Entdraft Basin. You can tap to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature with power X activated as a sorcery. So, you know, maybe not the greatest for some decks, but you can use it at least to bump up some of your smaller creatures. It is using mana that might be better used for other stuff, though. Gift of Strands. In an aura enchantment, so on a creature, it's got flash. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2 and gives a creature +3/+3. So that could be a nice surprise and maybe something decent for enchantment decks. Born Upon a Wind. So 2 mana, 1 blue, 1 colorless. You can cast spells this turn as though they had flash. So this is an instant, so you would want to cast this on another person's turn, and then your sorceries and other stuff will also have flash, so there could be some pretty nasty surprises with this. So I like this one. And of course it lets you draw a card. And then we have a swamp, and we have a food token. All right. And the last booster pack in this pre-release deck. Alrighty. We've got Arwen's Gift. So that's fun art. Costs 1 less to cast if you control 2 or more legendary creatures. Scry 2 and draw 2 cards. So card draw. Decent if you have a bunch of legendaries. Stalwarts of Osgiliath. When Stalwarts of Osgiliath enters the battlefield, the ring tempts you. When you draw your second card, put a +1/+1 counter. So 4 starts off as a 4/3 there. Galadrim Guide, which we've seen. Buyer of Orthanc. Destroy target artifact or lands. Creatures without flying can't block this turn. So that's cool. The Black Breath. 3 mana, 1 black. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 until end of turn, and the ring tempts you. Kind of situational there. Hithlane Knots, 1 blue, 1 colorless. Tap a target creature, scry 1, and draw a card. I know some tap decks that might like that. Fog on the Barrow Downs, an enchantment. An aura enchantment for a creature. It's a spirit and can't attack or block, so nice to get rid of some of those opponent's large creatures. Snarling Warg, it's got menace. As long as you control a goblin or orc, it gets a +1/+0. Wizard Rockets, which we've seen. Borderless Knights of Dol Amroth. When you draw your second card, put a +1/+1 counter on it, but it's a nice looking card. Eomar of the Rittermark, legendary human knight. When she attacks, if you control a creature with greater power among creatures on the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. 5/4, so I don't know how often that will come up, but that is still pretty neat. Stern Scolding. 1 blue mana, instant, counter target creature spell with power or toughness 2 or less. So yeah, definitely to use against those hobbits, and that's a fun art there. Legolas, Counter of Kills. It's got reach, it's a 2/3. When you scry, if he's tapped, you can untap it. Do this only once each turn. Whenever an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter. So yeah, that can build up pretty quickly. So decent card there. Display of Power, can't be copied. Copy any number of target instants and or sorcery spells. You can choose new targets with the copies. That's interesting for having a red for being with red mana. It's often a blue thing, so that's kind of fun. Unexpected. Then we have a plains, and then we have a food token. So, alright. Thank you all for watching, everyone.